I'm a Tonechaser. That thing you hear in your head that you just can't quite get.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Hope everybody's well. This is a pretty cool little interview I did with Zeke Clark, Edwards guitar tech, back on May 10th, 1986. Zeke was his tech at the time, replacing Rudy Lieren. And I would run into Zeke now and again up at 5150. And I was able to get him to sit down and talk to me about the book that I was, going to write back in the day. So, Zeke outlined his, job description as helping Edward achieve, whatever he wanted sound-wise. So Zeke was there helping Edward achieve his tonal vision, right? Playing that game of tones, speaking in tones. So it's a pretty fun interview. We get pretty hardcore gear talk here. So we must have been in 5150 because it sounds like I'm just sort of looking at the gear as we're talking. So anyway, man, check it out. I hope you dig it. Thanks.
Okay, basically, Eddie Van Halen, the guitar player, the guitarist extraordinaire, whatever. Definitely an interesting character to work for.
And you work with a few of them.
And I have worked with a few heavy guitarists in the business. Some of his people that he knows, like Journey's Neil Schon, Craig Keith from Starship, and on and on and on. Just to name a few. But Edward Van Halen is definitely a one of a kind. Basically, starting with his technique and style is something that I've never seen coming out of a guitar player before. So he definitely has his own creation of creativity, which is always exciting for me as a technician to work for, such a player. And then it starts with, just his creativity and ability on introducing a new sound, to the guitar itself. It's like giving that guitar a piece of Eddie Van Halen, just like way he virtually designed his own style of guitar, like the Eddie Van Halen guitar, where starting from the type of wood that it's made out of, trying every possible combinations of woods, from maple to oak to rosewood to whatever woods are just bodies, right? Just body styles, and then just the body style itself, what feels comfortable to himself, to his body, as he holds the guitar. And down to the strap locks, the type of strap locks that he feels comfortable with, where the strap goes, changing normal standards, where everything is just like an Edward Van Halen feel to it. Mm-hmm. And then as far as once he found his right wood, the type of wood that he likes for the guitar, which I won't disclose the type of wood, but it is definitely a light wood, Then he goes into the pickup and wiring, down to the volume pot, uses a 500K volume pot, wide open. And the type of pickups, you can use any combination of, from DiMarzio to humbuckers to Seymour Duncan to whatever pickup he gets, he can't even be settled with that pickup the way it operates. So he's there taking the thing apart, pulling all the screws out. Mm-hmm. And separating the double coils, unsoldering them and stuff, and taking them off the plate, and then taking the pickups, soaking them in paraffin wax, which seals the coil, then putting the screws back in, putting the coils back together, and putting them back onto one pickup plate, putting it in the guitar and seeing if it works. Mm. Then he finds that it works and he loves the way it sounds. He might run through 8 or 10 different pickups, or maybe put one coil from one pickup and a match a coil with another pickup and put it together and see how it works. Sometimes the pickups just melt in that pot of wax. It comes out with just holes in the wires and goes, oh, whoops. Grab another one. Then once he gets the guitar together, then it's the feel of the neck, the way he likes the neck to feel.
How does he like the neck to feel?
Well, he likes it to feel, it's just basically the neck that he has, the Edward Van Halen neck, is just something that's perfectly shaped around his hand. That's where his hand just feels just totally comfortable with. My hand is much larger than Edward's hand, but where I even think that his neck is just, the feel of it is just fantastic, more so than like, say, it's kind of like close to like the early Gibson SG feel. Like
a flat neck, flat top.
Yeah, flat top on it, but and it's just like real thin. Your hand can get around it easy. Instead of like the old Gibson Les Pauls, like were real fat necks, real wide and fat necks, and heavy stock of wood on the guitar itself. It just, I could never see Edward really getting into a guitar like that or really feeling.
So what kind of pickup is in the 5150 at the moment?
At the 5150, it's a basically I would consider it an Edward Van Halen pickup. Because he didn't accept it. It's just not something that somebody sent to him, whether endorsed by or to check out or whatever. It's something that he's torn apart and fooled with it and just. So I would consider it an Edward Van Halen pickup.
Can you talk about the tremolo he has on there?
Yeah, it's just it's Floyd Rose. Even the Floyd Rose, he's got to fool with that too. The standard Floyd Rose is just it's one of the greatest bridges there are in the world, I think, as far as I'm concerned, just because of keeping in tune. He's always pulling the springs off the back to go to the body and going beyond that and screwing the plate that holds the springs all the way into the body, which is never done. I've never seen an artist do that. Then he takes the arm, the actual tremolo arm, that takes it and starts taking that apart, and making drilling the hole out bigger, so it's more sloppier, looser. And taking super glue and glued it, the nuts and bolts, just to a right position that he likes, which is hard for other artists to even like the feel of it. They probably look at that and go, how can he even make the Floyd Rose work right? But he just works it right in his little area. He makes it work right for his little area, So I can say that that even the Floyd Rose that's on there is like it's living an Edward Van Halen life, that piece in that guitar.
Right.
He's got to just fit for him. And if another guitar player picked up Edward's guitar, like it's funny, like the other day, like when Sammy was checking out just pickups and stuff, I gave him one of Edward's, up on stage there during the sound check. And he goes, Edward, how can you play this damn thing? This thing's all broken and stuff. How can you play this thing? Everyone goes, what do you mean? He goes, it's not broken. It's perfect. And Sam goes, had to give me the guitar back and goes, I can't play this thing like this. Then we go from beyond the guitar, to the strings, even actual strings that he puts on it. He never could accept normal strings. He used to boil strings. To where Edward has his own guitar strings that I put on his guitar.
Tell me about these strings.
They're made by Ernie Ball that are actually manufacturing them and that are sold to Kramer. Kramer does all the main endorsement for Edward Van Halen, on the guitar. They tried to create, since Edward, when he first built his first guitar, he from what I know, I couldn't be absolutely sure because I wasn't with Edward Van Halen when this went down. But from the best of my knowledge and feedback that I get, Kramer, shipped Edward some parts and pieces and stuff like that, and said, hey, what do you think you can do with one of these? Give us a shot at it. We'd love to manufacture your idea, whatever you need, endorse you, right? And Kramer's just been totally great, where Edward just took whatever anybody sent him anyway. He always had to fool with it, dip in wax or dunk in the river a couple times, or leave in the shower, or put in the sun, or put wax on it, or gum, or never wants them clean and nothing like that. It's just built up dirt and crud and sweat. He goes, yeah, it's sounding better now. It's getting more dirtier. More sweat on it. So he's definitely blown a lot of minds in the industry as far as what has been a standard for so long. Even more so like than Hendrix or Beck or Clapton or Page or some of the greatest players that have been around. He's definitely, from what I've seen, just an outstanding character, and a constant creator and ambitious person to even work for it, because it just, all these little tricks that you just don't learn all at once, it's just something that it just continually grows with just this character,
Getting back to strings, what is special about them? What are the gauges?
Well, he uses a 9, 11. He uses different gauges on different guitars.
What's on the 5150?
The 5150 guitar, he's using 9, 11, 15, 26. I think I'm getting confused there, but it ends up with a 40 on the top end. It starts with a 9, ends up with a 40. I think it's 9, 11, 15, 24, 32, and 40. I believe that's it. I'll give you a package of them.
Okay.
On the actual strings that said, designed by Edward Van Halen on it.
What about Ed's picks?
His picks that he's using right now is he used to start out with a hard Fender style pick, right? Then he went into some metal picks. Went through everything. He'd never be happy with a pick for a while, but finally he's got a pick, and believe it or not, most guitar players and stuff, somebody that's actually using a piece of metal for a pick, they want that hard, just that pick not to budge. But now Edward has just, found out that it's not the pick, it's in the hand, and you see the way he picks like this sometimes, like with a real fast motion, so he's using a thin, and actually he likes the white ones, the white thins.
White 5150.
Right, even the color white,
Seriously?
Yeah, he likes the white,
Interesting.
Because he says he likes to see the pick, the way it moves sometimes. Just watch the pick, the way it bends and such.
What about, talking about the guitar again, you mentioned the strap locks. I know that they're pretty unique, the type of things he used.
Right, he just basically took every basic kind of guitar strap lock. It's the type that you pull up and locks on and goes down, a little pin locks it on. Or the kind that you push in. It's like a push-in strap lock. But Edward just never accepted those at all. He went to like your basic eye bolt into the back side of the guitar, around the left-hand side of the guitar, right? Instead of like on the top going in this way, it's on the back side. It's an eye bolt in there. And the eye bolt above where the old one was on the back side, right? Like clip-on hooks,
right.
Like a keychain kind of holder hook.
Where you push the part down, it slips inside the little ring.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what the actual term for those diagram things are, but that's where he goes with those.
Yeah.
He just leaves the strap on the guitars continuously, then tapes it up so there's no way it can possibly come off.
Right.
So even like I say, it's just, it's got to be something different than nobody have ever seen before, even on a guitar. Even to the simplest little thing, it's
Right.
It's something that Edward Van Halen, created.
Right. Describe the other two guitars that he's playing. I guess the 1984 and the Steinberger.
Okay, the 1984 is basically a guitar that when I first walked in with Edward Van Halen, it's one that he built himself. It's like his the guitar that he used for 1984, the record 1984. At some point in time, he busted the neck off, and whether it was, I don't know the story behind it, whether it was him or somebody else that worked for him, or whether the cats at the house up there's dog, knocked it over, dragged it out by the pool or something, whatever the situation was. But to where Edward comes in and he goes, for kind of like a test for me in confidence, he goes, oh, so you're Zeke Clark, huh? And I said, yeah, I'm here to take care of you, so you don't have to worry about all this stuff and tuning your guitars and, just somebody that I feel that you haven't had that can take a lot of this pressure off of you, to work with you, that you can trust. He goes, oh yeah? So he says, hey, come on, follow me. So I follow him, and he goes into this one room, in the 5150 there, and grabs up this cardboard box and just starts throwing all these pieces into it, He threw in the body that was all no wiring, no pots in it, no pickup, nothing. Parts of pickups in the box, chunks of wire off the corner, with cobwebs still on them, and a neck that wasn't unfinished neck, that wasn't finished fretted, or no tuning keys, or no nut on it, or nothing. Just throws in this box and goes, here. He goes, come back tomorrow. If you can put this together and make it work, make it sound like what I want it to sound like, you got the job. Right? So he goes back into the studio and gives me this box. Right? So I look in the box, palm to the box, there's a couple parts were missing, like the volume pot for one. Right? And I've always known that he used a 500K pot. So I told Chris Paul at the time was he's our tour manager. I go, Chris, I'm gonna run down to the music store. Says I want to get on this right now. So I went out and started, to a couple music stores, Guitar Center and stuff, and got to pick up a couple parts. All I needed was the Floyd Rose. He gave me the Floyd Rose bridge, but he didn't have the nut, so I went and had to buy a Floyd Rose nut. And so I'm sure he had it at the house, but I didn't want to disturb him and ask him for. I had my little toolbox, a couple extra frets, and I started on it right there in the living room in the studio there, where all the pinball machines are. And they're in there working on a tune, working up a tune, on the record. So within 2 hours, I'm just tuning it up by ear, just had it down to the point where I'm tuning it up. And he had some of his other guitars sitting there, so I plugged them into a lamp and compared the tone, and they were like, as close as you could be. So he comes walking out of the studio, with a Schlitz malt liquor bowl and a hot dog, chili dog, I think, And he goes, oh. He goes, you're still here, huh? And I go, yeah, well, you said, to be back when I'm done with it, so I figured I'd just do it here. I said, it's done, I'm just wondering if you got the time, I don't want to bother you nothing, but, here it is if you'd like to check it out. He goes, oh, you finished it. The way he talks, and I was just like, oh, let's see if it's going to work now, see if it's going to play. He goes, I didn't think it'd take you, I thought it'd take you a week to get this one done, it's a couple hours. He goes, oh, pretty impressive. Finishes his hot dog, and still got mustard all. I think that's the first mark that went on the neck was a little blotch of mustard. Gets down there and plays it, and he goes, great. But I said, how's it sound to an amp? I said, I just checked it out. I think it sounds fine. He goes, oh. He goes in there and checks it through the amp, and he goes, hey, where have you been all my life? And that's where kind of when we started really locking in, And so I just started getting into his needs, and he said, well, we'll finish this record with me, work with me up here in the studio and go over and check out my gear, the gear that he's been using on his past tours, which he said, I've heard he's had nothing but problems with, kinds of things going down and such like that. And so I started I walked over to the warehouse. I remember walking over to the warehouse, looking at this just from the floor to the ceiling, and just, thousands of speaker cabinets and just massive stuff, just incredible. I go, wow, this is Eddie Van Halen's, his factory or whatever, where he keeps all his equipment, his on tour stuff. Just the walls and walls of cabinets, and just stacks and stacks of Marshall heads and just everything. Just impressive when you walk in and you see all this stuff. And you just go, wow, I can't wait to drive this one. I put all the pieces of the puzzle, laid them out and numbered them, to where that I thought that they could only go together a certain way. And I go, wow, this is crazy. I said, I don't understand this this doesn't make sense. So the other two crew guys was in there, Greg Emerson and Kevin Dugan, and I'm asking them, I go, is this right? Could this be possible? The way Rudy, the guy that had been with them for 7 years, which is a great guy, did everything the best that he knew how, from what Edward told him to do, But he never, I guess, had the basic understanding or the time to take it beyond and know the internal electronic parts of it, to understand the thesis behind the electronics and just the whole theories of electricity and reproduction of sound and the sound wave and so on and so forth, Where I said, is this the way Rudy actually had to do this stuff? You know, is this right? And they look at me and they go, well, geez, Zeke, you know, as best as we know. And I just go, hey, you know, this is, no wonder this stuff is kept on going down, you know, because there was no real safeties on this stuff, and just the wiring or protection, and just the way it went together, like his effects rack and the things that he did go through, like the little sounds that he did use, which were just, you know, he uses two different echoes, you know, for the two different times of the set, you know, which is something simple, but just the intensity of it, and is just, you know, I knew I could do it better, you know, so then it was a task of going back to, you know, the management. And first I went back to Edward and I said, hey, Edward, you know, if I'm going to take all this stuff on the road, I said, it looks impressive and all that, but it hadn't been serviced, you know, since that Roth and Edward made the split, you know, it had been sitting in the warehouse, you know, for almost 2 years, you know. The stuff that he has needs to really be serviced, you know, quite a bit. Just the way it's stored, you know, just with the rains that they had down there, so the things got wet and rusted, and to where everything's got to be rebuilt, you know. To where I just started going through things, different things. Started with the heads, you know, his Marshall heads, 100-watt heads, which brings into another character to Edward Van Halen, and that's a guy that Edward found a long time ago, a guy by the name of Jose Arredondo.
Before we get there, let's backtrack. Describe the two guitars, and then let's move ahead, okay?
Okay.
Tell me about the 1984 guitar.
Right. The 1984 guy is the one that he uses on for one song, and it's a song called Good Enough. Okay. Now that has a bass string on it, a 60 gauge bass string, right? And the bass string actually is a Steinberger, from a Steinberger bass guitar. You know, so I'm ordering from Steinberger. I'm ordering this one gauge. You know, to where they're going, what the hell are you doing? You know, having us break up the set towards something different. I said, well, you know, that's Edward Van Halen. You know, because he does use Ned Steinberger in the beginning. Built Edward, you know, a Steinberger, and then Edward starts fooling with that. You know, taking the Steinberger, you know, and goes. Just like he does anything he gets, you know, he's always got to not just look at it and play it, where he just goes. For sometimes he might take, and with his experimentation, and make the guitar sound worse, but he knows what he did. He knows where, at least whether he starts at a point and makes it better, right, or he starts at a point and the guitar goes worse, but he knows he just has to wait till he gets to the part to make it better and do it the other way, you know. And so with the 1984, it's the one that's the guitar that like my first true test and adaptation into the trust of Edward Van Halen to monitor his stuff is one that I built. And
what kind of pickup is on there?
Oh, that one is just like a pickup that Edward basically did the same treatment to. You know, to where he threw the pickup in a box, right? There's no wiring or the way I wired it, whatever. To where, you know, it was Edward Van Halen pickup customized, to where it's been dipped and torn apart. He just basically used the pieces of various pickups, you know, to put together. That's what he does. When he's trial and error and putting left hanging on the wall to dry in from, you know, with the wax dripping off, and goes, where he asked him, Ever, what pickup is this? Is this made from a DiMarzio or a humbucker or an old, you know, PAF or whatever? And he's like, oh, hell, I don't know. You know, I just, you know, grabbed this one here and grabbed that part there and just started dipping and dunking and soldered and screwing, you know, and here it is. Check it out, you know. So
this third guitar he uses is a Steinberger.
It's a Steinberger guitar. Now, the Steinberger guitar that he uses for two songs. First song that they laid down that he experimented with was a song called Get Up, which is a very fast, like, song, and it has EMG pickups on it. He had us change to where when I got into it, we changed the guitar, the body style. The first one that he got was the pickup was about a quarter of an inch. He uses the back pickup. It's got two pickups on it. You know, you can use it rhythm or, you know, lead right? You can either have both pickups on, the front pickup on, or the back pickup on, right? So he plays from off the back pickup on the Steinberger. When Steinberger set it out, he had it like about an inch away from the back tailpiece, the back bridge. Edward gets out there and starts, with the old file and the hacksaw blade, pulls it apart and starts, sawing and, and filing and moving the pickup. Goes, because they didn't really like the sound, where it was at, to where the whole key that we found out just with, taking apart about 3 or 4 different Steinbergers that he sent out, there's nothing wrong with them. They're made out of cast fiberglass, out of a mold, to where it's not like out of wood that you can carve and stuff. They're hollow, right, to where Edward always goes for, the wood and the neck. The neck is made out of graphite, right? It's graphite neck. It's kind of I don't know if it's a combination, some kind of a material, graphite, fiberglass, some kind of a synthetic, man-made material instead of a nature's grown wood or whatever. So we ended up, just getting the pickup, moving the pickup back, jogging it around or whatever, and to where we got the idea that we wanted. So then he calls up Steinberg and goes, hey, I want it exactly this far, make me a top, so it looks nice and clean, exactly this far from the back bridge, right? They go, why? What do you want to do that for? So they finally ended up doing it and sending them back, and that's what went on the record.
So he moved it back.
Right, he actually moved it right up next to the bridge. That's what the way he used it live on the record. On the record now for live, we found out that he had to move it, like in the studio, once we built the rig, he liked the sound of the Steinberger with the pickup moved just a little bit more, like a little bit tilt the other way. So we're calling Steinberger up and going, hey, we just want it, just make us up one, because I didn't have the materials to mold any, fiberglass things, or it was up to them to where if they said, we're going to play this on stage and stuff, I'm sure you don't want to have it like it all chewed up and chopped up, and to where they go, okay, we'll move it again for you, and in the meantime they're going, how can just a fraction or a quarter of an inch or the way it's slanted or adjusted make a difference, that much of a difference to this guy's ear? How can he tell? Yeah. That much, which just shows you how much of a genius this guy is.
How are you? How's everybody? I hope you dug part 1 of Zeke Clark, talking all things Edward Van Halen. You'll now be hearing part 2 coming up in a little while, so be on the lookout. Okay, guys, bye.